Thank you so much, Father. You probably have a lot of work ahead. Thank you very much. Now, we're told that the mayor just arrived. He may be coming out here to talk to the media later on. But again, let me give you those numbers. 256 patients here at St. Vincent's, 25 in critical condition, 3 are now dead, and as I said earlier, about 30 firefighters, police officers, and EMT workers are here as patients. Reporting live from St. Vincent's, Whitney Casey, CBS 2 News.
Whitney, thank you so much.
On the phone with us now is Harvey Tenenbaum, who we believe lives in Efrat in the West Bank. Mr. Tenenbaum, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon to all of you.
Thanks for calling in. First of all, I know you have relatives in New York City, and I'm sure you want to assure them, anybody else who knows you, that you are A-OK.
We're okay here, and we feel for the what we call the reverse deja vu, where the people of America are now unfortunately victims of terror, and just as sometimes we have been victimized by terror here, and we get called from the U.S. to see if we're okay. Yes. We're sitting here watching our TV and going to prayer services tonight on behalf and for the entire USA.
Have you seen or have you heard that there are celebrations going on in the West Bank involving Palestinians? That's some of the videotape you're seeing here in our viewing area. Do you know about this?
Yes, earlier today in the East Jerusalem area and in Nablus and other areas of the West Bank, children were handing out candy. There was some burning of American flags and general rejoicing among some of the population, with some of the Palestinian Authority people trying to move the children away from the cameras being filmed in their rejoicing of this terrible, terrible tragedy, while we here are in our prayer services, very emotional and very sad in our prayer services throughout the night here.
Have you heard how Yasser Arafat is responding to this?
We have not heard officially. There's always an official denial after he hears of a terror act that he condemns it, but we don't know firsthand what his reaction has been. We just see some of the streets of the neighboring Arab villages rejoicing earlier today.
Just before I let you go, in seeing that happening where you are, do you fear for your own life?
No, we don't fear for our own lives. We've been through a year of terror on a daily basis here, and now we are so saddened and have such emotions over what's happening in America that we just don't know what to say and when the end will be there, and we just wish everyone a speedy recovery and to try to pray, all the religions, that God stop us from any more of this terrible, terrible terrorist activity.
Harvey Tenenbaum on the phone with us from Efrat in the West Bank. Thank you for joining us. Please stay safe.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Cindy Hsu is in the newsroom standing by with some new information for us. Cindy.
Okay, Angela, we have new video coming in right now. The first video is of the 59th Street Bridge. As we told you, the NYPD, these are all the people who were leaving the city on the 59th Street Bridge. Massive people walking, walking pretty slowly, actually, Fran Ham, who works here with us, she actually walked across the Manhattan Bridge and says people are just in a state of shock. It's not really chaotic and crazy. And this right here is Democratic candidate Peter Vallone for mayor. He is giving out water. He's from Astoria, and he's in Queens giving out water bottles to people. And obviously, the primaries have been canceled today. And then, some people were just overcome. And we see this woman who's just kind of holding on to the post and trying to keep it together. There's so many stories we're hearing, and that it's just a lot of people are just in a state of daze and shock over what's happened. Again, this is video of people going over the 59th Street Bridge. Because the NYPD earlier had asked everyone to clear the city streets so that emergency crews could get in. So the bridges were open outbound. People could walk across. My understanding now is that vehicles are being allowed to get out, but not come into the city. Now we're looking at video we just got in from the Brooklyn Bridge. This is amateur video. People are, again, slowly walking. You can still see the smoke and the debris. And it's a slow walk, and people are just getting out of the city. Again, amateur video from the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm seeing this with you for the first time. You can see the clouds of smoke are still all over. It's good to see that people are just kind of calm. And now we're looking back at what they're calling the belly of the beast, where everything happened. Shortly after, I believe, the second plane went into the World Trade Center. And one of the towers.
Cindy, looking at that video of all those people walking, it just looks so much like a war zone. It looks like a mass exodus, something we've seen in Eastern Europe, something we've seen in African nations, nothing we've ever seen in this country.
That's so true, and you know, talking to, like I said, Fran, who works for us, she just went over one of those bridges, and she just says people are just walking in a daze. You know, in a way you'd almost think people would be running across, but they're not. It's just a slow, methodical march across, you know, not being able to believe what's happened.
It is numbing, and just by looking at this video, you look at it and wonder if you're watching something other than reality, a movie, something. It's hard to imagine this has happened. The effect on the American psyche remains to be seen. President Bush is considering an address to the nation tonight. He is at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska. That's the site of Strategic Air Command, a highly, highly armored, bunkered place where he is safe, and that is where they're having national security briefings right now, speaking about what this country does next as we stay on full attack alert from coast to coast. The President has ordered a full investigation and promised to hunt down the people responsible for this. There's a lot of questions as to who's responsible. The Taliban, the Islamic group in control, the conservative group in control of Afghanistan, believed to be harboring Osama bin Laden, denies that bin Laden is involved, saying he does not have the resources to have mounted this type of attack across the U.S. The Taliban also stating they don't have the resources to mount this type of attack, and instead saying that perhaps some foreign government is responsible. But the investigation to who is responsible for this will take many, many days.
And in response to all of that, of course, the military has boosted security across the country to the highest levels today. Admiral Robert Natter has sent out all of these ships to New York and to Washington, D.C., and he once again has said, he's talked about Pearl Harbor. We have not seen an attack like this since Pearl Harbor, but he says that he's deployed these fleets to assist with air defense and medical needs, but the mayor and the governor said it's also for our comfort and for us to feel safer.
And again, as we said moments ago, the borders with Canada and Mexico closed across the country now as America hunkers down, preparing for a possible follow-up attack. This all began this morning at 8:48. At 8:48, when an airliner crashed into the World Trade Center. Michael Looney's here now to help us recap what has happened since that hour this morning. Michael?
That's when it all started, 8:48, when a plane crashed into Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. That plane, American Airlines Flight 11, had been hijacked from Boston. It was headed for Los Angeles. 18 minutes later, 18 minutes after that first crash, now at about 9:15, another plane smashed into the second World Trade Center tower. Roughly 30 minutes later, at 9:45, an airplane crashed into the Pentagon just outside of Washington, D.C. Then at about 10:05, the first tower of the World Trade Center collapsed to the ground. At about the same time that was happening, a large plane crashed in western Pennsylvania, about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. It was a United Airlines flight from Newark headed to San Francisco. And about 20 minutes later, at about 10:20, the State Department was evacuated because they thought there was a car bomb there. That was later not to be the case. And then at about 10:28, the second tower of the World Trade Center also collapsed. About 8 minutes after that, there was a fourth explosion at the tower, and that's where we have it.
All right, Michael, and let me recap real quick, too. American Airlines Flight 11, the first to strike the World Trade Center, as Michael said, at 8:48. That was taking off from Boston, bound for Los Angeles. Following that, United Airlines Flight 175, also from Boston to Los Angeles, struck the North Tower. Again, that was at about 9:04, about 15 to 16 minutes after the first impact, as Michael mentioned. Following that at 9:45, we believe, according to the FBI, American Airlines Flight 77 actually struck the Pentagon. People were inside. People have been taken to hospitals in Washington. There are reports of deaths at the Pentagon. And as Michael mentioned, United Flight 93 crashing outside of Pittsburgh, about 80 miles outside Pittsburgh in Somerset County. Angela?
We are actually standing by for a live press conference with the mayor at St. Vincent's Hospital. When we get that, we'll bring it to you. In the meantime, we want to actually listen to what a witness in the World Trade Center at the time, a construction worker. Listen to what he had to say.
My name is Joe Macaluso. I just want my mother and my family to know I'm alive. I was on the 34th floor when the planes hit. We didn't know what happened.
Take me in the building. What did you hear? How close were you to the explosion?
I was working on the side of the explosion, and I walked over to the other side to get something. And when I got there, the building started shaking, and we didn't know if it was an earthquake or what. And we looked out the window, and all you saw was debris raining down from the sky. And
did you see any sign of a plane at that point?
No, I went to the opposite side, and then we all started evacuating. And then people were saying it's better to stay in the building. And most of us kept going. We went down the stairs. It took us about a half hour, and we got out of the building, and they were saying, "Don't look up," they said. And they said, keep going, keep going.
Where were you when the second plane hit?
I don't know.
You were out of the building.
I didn't know planes hit. I was in the building probably when the second plane hit.